The markets have been shaken. Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB, and Solana are red candles, with billions of dollars leaving the market. Major panic. Some are already shouting, this is the beginning of the end. But wait, why did the conflict with Iran flare up at this exact moment? Coincidence or a planned scenario? Today, we'll do a detailed analysis of the cryptocurrency market, take a look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and BNB, and of course discuss the current market situation and how it affects things. Has the big rally already started, or is this just a trap before a major crash? But let's get started. Enjoy watching. I consider Alexander Usov's comment the winner. Comment number 3, $108,000. Join in. Just leave your comments, your predictions about what levels Bitcoin will reach in our next episode. In the previous episode, we took a detailed look at the cryptocurrency market, and I mentioned that there is currently a lot of uncertainty in the market, and that Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB, and the market as a whole could crash, which could be the start of a major downward move. Is this the beginning of the big end? The big end? No. Once again, this is the beginning of the end. That's right. Overall, so far, this movement has played out just as we predicted, and the price really did drop, and quite significantly. In addition to this, of course, there were the explosions in Iran, when the US struck bases where weapons were being developed. There's an interesting point here. The question remains, is this a planned action, or are events simply unfolding this way? Analysts have differing opinions, but I can say one thing. News is always tailored to fit the chart. Which news will be released? That's a secondary question. But initially, you can always see on the chart that there is something that will contribute to further growth or further decline, whether in the short term or the long term. And at that moment, it was clearly visible when we recorded the review. Literally last weekend, we saw a sharp drop. In these ranges, we had a spike upward to about $106,000, after which there was a significant drop. This happened precisely when the United States struck directly in Iran. I've been in the market for 9 years now, and I can clearly see that whenever there are some news flashes, it's always reflected in the chart ahead of time. That is a major player before the start of a significant positive news background or a negative one knows where the price will go and either sells off positions or accumulates them. In this case, it was clear that positions were being sold off and everything was being prepared for a drop. Now, let's take a closer look at what we see in the current market situation and where it might be heading. As usual, we'll start our review with Bitcoin and the Bitfinex exchange. Let's go. So let's move on to the monthly time frame. We can see, first of all, that the RSI is already at overbought peaks, but I'll repeat that these overbought peaks can go quite far during a bull market. What's important here? According to candlestick analysis and key levels, we have a rather strong and important psychological level somewhere around the $100,000 mark, right? So we have crossed the $100,000 mark, and we've done so successfully, at least for now, on the monthly time frame. As I mentioned in previous videos, the growth could reach around $150,000 to $154,000. That's the next major level. So we have this large range, a corridor where the price can just shoot up into the stratosphere. But it's important to keep a close eye on the specific level. This time, even though the price dipped below $100,000, yes, the consolidation still happened above $100,000. That's why in every one of our reviews, I emphasize that there needs to be consolidation on a higher time frame. A higher time frame can be considered at least the daily, but ideally, of course, the weekly. That's why our candle closed above $100,000 at the end of the day. But with the wicks, yes, the price dropped to around $98,500. And here there was a quick buyback. But what else is important to note right now? We are holding the level, right? If the price does go above $100,000 due to various events or situations, then of course the area around $68,000 to $70,000 will act as a magnet for us. That is right here. And ideally, the market should come down to this area. And this will happen in any case, yes, either from the current levels, roughly speaking, or after moving higher. But without a doubt, Bitcoin will come to the $70,000 zone. I see this as 100% certain. Why am I 100% sure that Bitcoin will come to the $70,000 zone? The question is, Through which levels? Because here lies a global level which was tested around the peak of 2021, yes, and in 2021 it was not March, but November. After that, in 2024, there was an attempt to break through these peaks, but it didn't work out. And here there was a very long accumulation from March 2024 all the way to the end of October 2024. And only after that did we see a breakout. Accordingly, this is a strong level, a zone and an asset, a normal, strong asset. And Bitcoin is exactly that kind of asset, returns to the base of its growth, comes back to a strong level. And in fact, this level still hasn't been tested yet. That's why you need to watch closely, including from the current levels, because we're seeing a divergence, yes. And it's more than possible that from these levels, there could be a corrective move. But again, the RSI can show that, yes, there is overbought territory, but ultimately the key factor will be the level itself and whether it holds. Therefore, if we don't see a hold above this level, we look towards the long side and consider long positions with targets up to around $155,000. And only after that, some kind of corrective move may happen, maybe even back to $105,000, followed by either a breakout or consolidation and then a move further upward. Those are my thoughts on Bitcoin. This is exactly what you should pay attention to. And in our case, this is exactly what we do. What should you do? Of course, that's your decision. But for us, these are considered key levels. Now let's take a look at Ethereum to USDT. Ethereum also reacted quite strongly and there was a significant drop. Here we can clearly note a distinct strong divergence, right? The candlestick analysis, the candlestick chart was moving up while the RSI chart was moving down. This is a simple classic divergence that works excellently in the market, but you need to know how to identify it correctly and in a timely manner. So right here, when we had peaks, yes, around the 20th, we also saw divergence appear. Here is one point, and here is the second point. Accordingly, this is a signal for a decline. Right, and we saw a significant drop begin. Right, what is important to note here right now, that as long as we haven't broken through the 2,800, mark roughly 2,800, or even better, 2,900, there is no further upward movement. And still the area around 1,800 and even down to 1,500 could act as a magnet. It's important to keep an eye on this as well. If the candle, specifically the candle body, manages to close above 2,570 or 2,580 USDT on the weekly time frame, then there will of course be a possibility of moving up to the area of around 2,900. Anything below the area of about 2,480 is potentially a move down to the 1,835 zone. In other words, movement between levels is the main thing here. Also, what indicated the drop that has just happened even before the informational spikes occurred. So you can draw your own conclusions. Of course, here on the weekly time frame, we see large wicks, right? That is, the price tried to go up, but it kept getting sold off and dumped. There are even wicks on the weekly time frame, reaching up to about 12%. For a little over a month, we had sell-offs that didn't allow the market to move further up. And here the question is whether this was a planned attack, right? And they just waited for the right news background simply to manipulate the market. Or is it really the case? You can write your opinion in the comments. I'd be interested to read it. I've shared my opinion with you that the news is tailored to fit the chart. So in my view, all the events happening in the world are part of a pre-planned scenario. Again, I'll say that the key levels after which Ethereum will start moving aggressively upward are around the $4,000 zone. From there, the targets will go up to $7,200 and even up to $17,000 in this bull run that is expected for Ethereum. There's every chance, right? But it's possible that there will be consolidations down to the area around $1,800 and drops even to $1,500, yes, possibly as wicks. But I absolutely don't see the market going any lower than that. If that happens, then these would potentially be just perfect points for buying. And of course, we'll really be opening long positions here and accumulating more Ethereum on spot. Even if a correction happens now, from our point of view, this correction won't be prolonged. It won't last for a long time, right? So this is not the end of this bull run that was planned or has already happened. It's just a corrective move before further growth. That's why we'll only view it as a buying opportunity. Now, let's move on to the BNB review. BNB overall held up very, very well in the market, even though there was a decline. But I also pointed out the levels for Ethereum that if it consolidates below 580 USDT, then there could be a chance for a move down to the area around 380 to 430 USDT. But BNB to USDT is holding up very strongly as well. Moreover, you can interpret this as a formation of a bullish flag here, and it's showing itself very well. And I'll repeat, this is the monthly time frame. And here we have a breakout look. It's perfect even. If there's a breakout here, it works out perfectly according to Fibonacci. That is 2,300 USDT per BNB will most likely appear on our screens this year. We will be able to see this together. The scenario can only change if BNB consolidates at $580. Yes, there might be some corrective movement, but again, this corrective movement would only be for the purpose of buying up the market. But for now, I absolutely don't see any consolidation below $580 for Binance Coin. There you go. All right. At this level, they're showing themselves perfectly according to Fibonacci and so on. That's why if you want to read charts, understand charts, read them like a book, you need to study, you need to learn, because without this knowledge, it's better not to be in the market. The most successful strategy for you would be to just buy on a regular basis and then close your positions at certain levels that you've marked for yourself. Otherwise, playing blindly is a very dangerous endeavor. That's why I recommend that if you're in this market, look for education, buy courses, and knowledge will really help you a lot. At the very least, you won't be like a kitten with its eyes closed, right? In this market, it's important to understand, to see where things are moving, to be able to read charts. There's an interesting situation with Solana. We have an interesting picture on the monthly time frame. I see a divergence here, right? The candlestick chart is going up again, but the RSI chart is going down. Plus, this green line tells me that the pressure is downward. Usually, these kinds of formations lead to the arrival of strong zones. I consider the strong zone to be around $70 here. So right now, $70 is acting as a magnet for Solana. I see that a potential drop is possible here, and it's quite a significant drop even from the current levels. Percentage-wise, it's about 45 to 50% that Solana could fall. This scenario can only be invalidated if the current structure breaks and the price moves above this line that was already broken. Yes, that's it. And accordingly, if Solana manages to hold above at least 185 to 190, or especially $200 is 200 USDT, this can be seen as the start of a new potential upward trend for Solana. And in that case, its peaks could reach up to $1,000. That will definitely happen. I have no doubt about it. But most likely, it will happen through a corrective movement. If, again, at the current levels, there is no consolidation above the value I mentioned. Those are my overall thoughts. Leave your comments. What do you think about the market? And of course, take part in our contest. Leave your comment. And the next comment that predicts the exact or closest price of Bitcoin for our next video recording will receive 50 USD from us. One participant can leave up to 3 different comments, so take part. Thank you for your attention. Stay in touch and goodbye.